We're going to talk about this issue out in Tshwane, millions of kilolitres. I think it's Sunnyside out in Pretoria, and it's been a problem, I would say, for probably more than a decade. We'll get there in a moment. Ferrial, good morning. First of all, aging infrastructure, maladministration. Where do you think the big problem sits with our infrastructure problems? Good morning.
Good morning, Gareth, and good morning to your viewers. I think it's a very complex issue because we've left it for so long. So it's all of that. And I think that we need to find ways of tackling each of those issues parallel to each other. But, you know, like it's how do you, I don't want to use this, but how do you eat an elephant? Small bites. And I think that that's what we need to do. We can't leave it anymore as is, because we're going to end up with a very destroyed system. If we haven't already.
And here's the problem is, while we're trying to fix what many are saying is this aging infrastructure, also I had Professor Mike Muller on earlier, Ferrial. He was saying that it's not just the aging infrastructure, it's the expanding infrastructure as well. You know, you need to add infrastructure for 1 million more people every year. So we're playing catch up while also trying to repair what was not maintained all those years ago. And this is why I wanted to talk to you, because now, I mean, I'm trying to get my head around 90 million kilolitre water leak. This is up in Tshwane. Tell me about this, because this has been around for 15 years.
Yeah, the state of our water leaks in South Africa is actually quite appalling. You'll get some people and some experts saying, oh, well, there's internationally we lose water through leaks. But that should not be the excuse we use anymore, considering that we're losing 38.4% of our municipal water. That was in 2021, 2022. It costs the country 21 billion rands when we lose that amount of water. And by the way, this issue in the city of Tshwane has been going on for as long as you've mentioned, but it's not just this problem. So some of the worst municipalities in terms of the most amount of water being wasted is eThekwini, Johannesburg, Tshwane, Ekurhuleni, and Emfuleni. And if you look at that, many of them are in Gauteng.
And I wanted to ask about the Gauteng situation as well, because unfortunately, it's just the country we live in. Everything is going to become political, isn't it? We're going to hear from the current mayors who are going to blame the previous mayors, who are going to blame the previous administration. What we're doing is we're just passing the ball down the line, and eventually you start getting a little bit confused. And I'm happy to admit this. I've lost track of who's been blaming who for what problem when.
Yeah, this is a decade-long problem, and I think that instead of blaming it, you know, you've been in government. I don't care which party you've been in or are in. You are in government, and this problem needed to be fixed. Don't come and say that you're trying to make a difference when it's election time. And water is going to be a big electioneering kind of tool that people are going to use into 2024, whether it's access, whether it's leakage, and whether it's the state of our rivers and streams. But that is something that all parties must actually own up.
Let's not try, as you say, and eat the elephant all in one bite, shall we? As you say, it's a terrible way of describing things. I don't know who came up with it. Eat an elephant one bite at a time. I like elephants. I certainly don't want to eat them. Let's talk about this 90 million kilolitres of water in Tshwane. Let's just try and focus on one problem. If we achieve nothing else today, Ferrial, let's just try and handle this one. What's the issue there? Who do we need to follow up with? How do we try and literally close the tap on this one?
I mean, I think that if you trace the problem, if you look at what has been happening, there have been people who've been following this issue. They have reported the issue through the right channels, all of that. We need to understand at a local government level who was responsible and why has the response been so slow. If it is a technical nightmare and there's a bigger problem at play, they need to explain it publicly and let us know what is going on. So the one explanation that I heard of was that this is it's a natural stream or natural spring that has sprouted or, that's leaking. And I'm like, that doesn't matter. We still need to fix the issue. And so that is my concern is, we're saying that the buck stops with someone, but I think it shouldn't be the middle managers anymore. It must be the municipal managers that actually come down and have a look at this issue and give a solution within 7 days. And Department of Water and Sanitation, as the oversight body, is taking too long to hold people accountable on this one.
And once again, here's the problem, isn't it? Because now what you've got is the Department of Water and Sanitation, but also, as we now know, constitutionally, it's municipalities that are responsible for water management. So now, once again, we have this deferment of power, but you also now have, in my opinion, this deferment of responsibility. Everyone is standing in a Mexican standoff staring at each other.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That is exactly. And while that happens, all this water is being wasted, which we cannot afford to waste. We are going into an El Nino, and some of the predictions are that we're going to have countries that are going, provinces that are going to be even drier than we know or expect. It's not sure, it's not guaranteed. But when are we going to realize that water is actually such a precious resource, that such wastage is a crime?
What would you say could be is there a silver bullet? Let me not ask what is the silver bullet. Is there a silver bullet here? Because there's so much talk around privatisation of water. That seems to be the go-to argument for Eskom. Is there such a thing as privatisation of water when it's a basic human right? I'm sure the cat has an opinion as well. If the cat wants to climb in, he's welcome to. But I don't think the cat can weigh in on this one. Do you think it's privatisation of water? Is that a way to go?
No, I don't think so. Because if you look at some of the countries across the world that did actually go towards privatization, they're reverting, because privatization does not always work. Who do you hold accountable when things do go wrong as a private company? So if you look at the UK, for example, their water is in a mess because of privatization. So you've got undrinkable water, you've got the streams and canals that are polluted. So that's not always the best solution. We need better oversight. We need a management. You must remember that for a long time, our Department of Water and Sanitation was in a mess. It was not doing the job that it needed to do. There are really, really good officials in place. There are really good, experienced people in the green scorpions, the blue scorpions. They're doing their work. And I think the new minister and the leadership in the Department of Water and Sanitation are really putting things into place. But they are obviously have a long backlog. So privatization is not the solution for me. I think that we need to look at small things that can be done, as you've mentioned, some of which is fixing the leaks, having a better response time, having better people in place to actually fix these things. I think, unfortunately, the situation we're in right now, there is no silver bullet. And that is why we need all hands on deck, and we need to act with urgency. So we need to behave that every small issue on water must be tackled as a big issue. And until we do that, we are just going further and further down the drain. Sorry about that pun, but yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say down the drain. If you didn't say it, I was going to say it, so you beat me to it. Let me ask you this just in closing, Ferrial, as well, because this was brought up with Professor Mike Muller earlier, and it was a good point, is that right now, due to high unemployment, due to the cost of living, inflation, all those wonderful things we're dealing with, a lot of municipalities, the residents, aren't, excuse me, a bit of a cold, a lot of residents aren't paying for their rates and taxes, which has a knock-on effect. I mean, do you think that holds water? There's so many puns in this interview, it's ridiculous. Do you think that holds any water with residents not paying for their rates and taxes? Because then how do you maintain the infrastructure? How do you improve it without that money coming in?
Well, it's not about residents not paying. I think, look, now there's discussions because of the state of everything that's happening at local government level. There are discussions at community level, at residents associations level, that they want to hold back on rates and taxes. But that has been a recent thing. The problem with local government is they have not been billing properly. So while you have on the technical side, there are issues around our water, on the other side, on the admin and finance side, they're not getting the bills, and they're not billing people correctly. They're not sending out, getting the money from people when they not paying. And it's not just residents. It's not small users that owe money. It's also big businesses that have not paid up their bills, etc. Collect that money. And that is not a boycott. That is not people don't want to pay. It's just the billing system is so messed up that people are not doing that. And I don't think it's as widespread. They just need to do it correctly, and people will pay. So that is the other challenge, is on the admin and finance side, that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great way of ending the discussion there, because I think what we'll maybe for tomorrow is pick up on the billing issue as well, because you're quite right. I think there are those residents and big businesses who are happy to pay, but if the billing is done properly, if it's not, that's when people stop paying because they can't get the correct numbers. It's a great way to take this story forward. Ferrial Adam, always good to speak to you and appreciate your time this morning, joining us from OUTA'S WaterCAN, the Executive Manager for them, Ferrial Adam.